All right, first slide. My assignment from Mr. Mitchell over here said, would you talk about the paperwork that you use on the Valley Junction Railroad during an operating session? And I said, oh, I can do that. I already have a presentation put together. I'll just modify it for this particular clinic here. So hopefully I'll answer the question by, this is the paperwork that we use, and this is how it makes things move. So it's going to be based on a local freight train we call POFR. And I'll explain what that is as we go along. Are you pushing them?
I am.
Oh, okay. How come you cut off the top of my slide?
Don't ask me to change that one.
Yeah, don't change anything.
Yeah, hang on a second.
This is a statement from many years ago. This is Frank Ellison. Frank Ellison was a luminary in our hobby back in the probably 50s or so. He was involved in theater. He lived in New Orleans, Louisiana, but he was a theater production type person. And his Delta lines, which was O scale, was written up in all the local magazines, and it was very well known. He came up with this statement, and it said, the operating schedule: present the drama of model railroading, in which the tracks are the stage, the buildings and scenery are the setting, the trains are the actors, and the operating schedule is the plot. And I took that to heart. I really believe this is what an operating session is all about. Slide, please. Today, we're going to be touching on train makeup, train handling, waybills and routing of freight cars, which is the paperwork part we'll talk about, running on a schedule and a fast clock, and how to have fun in an operating session. I didn't hear what I expected to hear when I said schedule and fast clock. Every time I have mentioned this to modelers, we will operate on a fast clock, they always go, oh, I can't do that. It's too complicated. It's too confusing. And every time I'll come right back at you and say, it's just the opposite to what you expect. It is the most organized, most relaxing event that you can have in the operating world. Slide, please.
Go wrong, you can stop the clock. When things go wrong, you can stop the clock.
Don't let out all our secrets. Gee. Why operate? We get this a lot. I have built my model railroad. Now what do? I used to help out at a hobby shop many years ago, Bay State Models, and people would come in and they would say, oh, I built this, I built that, and what do you suggest I do with it now? It's a very common theme. I keep reading all those articles in the model press, Model Railroad Magazine, and to a lesser extent, Gravel Model Craftsman, have been the vocal minority in pushing this idea of prototypical operations. We are really, those of us that are interested in operating schemes are really in the minority, not the average modeler, right? We are a splinter group. We just happen to be very vocal at what we do. A friend invited me to an operating session. Ooh. I like the challenge of solving a puzzle. This is one of the things that attracted me to this whole idea of operating, because I looked at it as a chess game, as a puzzle. As you move a piece from hither to yon, what happens? How does that piece affect the next piece? It's a puzzle to me, and you solve the puzzle. I saw an operating sessions included in NMRA events. How many have actually participated in an operating sessions as part of an NMRA event? Yay, all right, guys. Woo. Here's a plug, you ready? Unabashed, May 5th, 2023 is Hub High Green. Every division in our region will be getting the notice probably in end of March. Note it. Take it down, think, retain that information. And the last one, I want to earn my NMRA Chief Dispatcher Certificate. And I know there's somebody in here that already own it, so I'm going to ask, how many hold that certificate? 1, 2, 3, 4, I do 5. All right. That's so, if you're working on the achievement program, this is a certificate you can earn, and you don't even have to build a model railroad for. It's all in the paperwork. And we've found over the years that the number one stopper pursuing the AP program is doing the paperwork. So look, take a look at it. It's all fictional. You don't have to lay a piece of track. It's all in the paperwork, and it's doable. All right. Now, let's see what we can need to do to get started and run a local POFR on the Valley Junction Railroad. The VJRR runs with a crew of 8. We have a yard master at Portsmouth. POFR, and I'll explain that in a minute, originates here. There's a yard master at Valley Junction, which is the other end of the world. He never sees POFR. We have a branch lines operator. POFR will actually interchange cars with him. We have 4 mainline crews we call extra board. One of those crews is going to be the human power for POFR. And then there's a dispatcher, and his job is to enable the movements that POFR needs to make. Slide. Train makeup. I always take this slide first because we've been running operating sessions since 1994. The session will hold on the 20th, it'll be session number 337. So in all that time, we've seen it all. So this slide is a result of my experience. Locomotive goes on the front, caboose on the rear, and all the other cars go in between. Yes, guys, sometimes the train master has to step in and say, tap, tap. The locomotive is on this end. The caboose is on the other end because you're modeling 1960 and all the other freight cars go in the middle. Get it? And they'll smile. Block the cars by destination. This is extremely important. Take a page out of the prototype rulebook, if you were. If you want to get an enemy on a mainline crew and you're a yard master, give him his cars in random order. He will have some very unkind words for you. And the reason why is very simple. If you get out on the main line, it's now your job to put the cars in the right order, and that equals time. And remember, we're going to see a fast clock and a schedule in a minute. So you don't want to have any extra time in here. You put the set outs on the head pin and the pickups on the rear. Think of this train as it moves down the railroad as like a file cabinet. So when you leave the originating yard, all the files are in order. As this thing moves down the line, you take the set outs from the head end. Bonk. All of the others move forward up against the locomotive. And you take the setup, the pickups off, and you stick it in front of the caboose. Move on to the next town. Same thing happens. So as the course of that train happens, these cars keep moving forward in blocks to the engine. Guess where? Locomotive. So you want to keep your set outs close to the head pin as you can, because it makes it easier for the crews. Don't foul the main line. Always leave a path open for other trains. We operate with a dispatcher. That's not an option. And the reason is very simple. The dispatcher controls your turnouts. He's going to put you where he wants you. So the idea being is, you're not the only game in town, fellas. You're operating POFR, but there's also probably 4 other trains out there with you. So you need to be cognizant of the fact how you fit into this process of other trains. Keep the main clear. Use the offset mode in the Katy couplers to push cars into sidings, and then it leaves them without handling. My pet peeve over the years, I don't own a locomotive that has all its handrails. And the reason why is these uncoupling picks. I don't use magnets at all, not a one. So over the years, modelers, they love to do the vertical attack on Katy couplers down from the top. Right? Not in a VJ. You do that, I'll smack you alongside the head with a 2x4. push the cars together with 2 fingers, go in from the side with your pick and just pull a little glad hand and let go. The cars separate. I keep my handrails and most of my trees. Operate trains at prototypical speeds. Again, that in our particular case, train movements are governed by a dispatcher. So he's controlling the turnouts and he's giving you clearances from one point to another, which pretty much dictates how fast you're going to go. It is typically in our obsessions, it's not an issue. Listen to the dispatcher. We use radio headsets, radio communications, brief to the point. I don't want to hear a life story. Right? A couple of the guys will say, dispatcher, POFR, where are you? And you'll get back, well, I left this car over here, but I got to move over there to pick up that car over there. And oh, by the way, I think I'm going to go get a cookie. I go nuts when I hear this. No, the question the dispatcher asks you because he really wants to know where you are because he thinks you're here and you may not be because you have the ability to move. He can't see you. Answer the question. O.S. Franklin. Period. That's all he needs. He moves his little magnet. We'll see this in a minute. So now he knows precisely where you are between what 2 points, and you're not in these other places so that trains can move around you. Locomotive goes on the front and the caboose goes on the rear, and all other cars will be in between. Slide, please. Building the schedule. The Valley Junction Railroad runs on a schedule using a 6-to-1 fast clock. This is the time on your wristwatch. This is the time on the railroad. So for every 1 hour on your wristwatch, it's 4 hours on the railroad. This is my dispatcher's desk. So let's see how we build that schedule. This is in the tabulation form, right? And what you'll see is everything is set up. We'll pick out. Where are you? Don't right there. Okay, I even highlight it. This is Pulver. This is his departing time, 9:15 on the clock, and his point of origin, Portsmouth Yard. It's going to arrive at the other end. In this case, it's a turn job. So it's going to leave Portsmouth, go out, do its thing, and then come back to Portsmouth. And he should be back about 12:15. This schedule is actually on the dispatcher's desk. Okay. Slide, please. There it is. Over the years, I have heard so many gasps over creating this. And I found it the simplest thing to do. And it's a mental threshold problem. It really is. The joke with us is takes 2 nights in a hotel room in Chantilly, Virginia, 1 piece of yellow trace paper, a red pencil, and a blue pencil. And you create that. It's as simple as that. And I'm going to start. This is the one that's laminated. This is actually on the dispatcher's desk, and this is the one that is actually used. Each train has a starting point and an ending point. And it's the same thing I hear about I can never wire anything. I happen to be electrical. And I always answer with, but it's 1 wire at a time. 1. You look underneath the model railroad that's been there for 30 years, there's gazillions of wires underneath there. But they were put in 1 at a time. So if you can handle 1, you can handle the other 499 quadrillion that follow. It's the same wire. Just repeat the same thing over and over. Same here. Pick the first train. And what you'll see, this vertical is distance and horizontal is in time. This is 24 hours. So you pick a point. I'm going to start right there. Arbitrarily at first. It's just like, this feels good. We'll start here, right? And you figure out, I'm going to run from this point to this point. So the curve or the slope right here indicates movement. Then you get to that point and the line flattens out. What that's telling you is time is moving on. That's the horizontal axis, but there's no movement. You're holding at a signal. You're setting out a freight car, right? But as far as the schedule concerned, you're that place right there not moving, but the time is moving. So that's the flat spot. And then you figure out, okay, I've done whatever I need to do here. I'm going to start again, and I'm going to run, boom, I'm going to end right there. First train, done. Let's do it for 23 more. Same process, that same process. The flat section of the graph are waiting or working. The slope lines are in motion. I color coded it so that the red lines are the passenger trains and the blue lines are freight trains.
I think a very important point that you want to pick out is the fact that all those flat areas have passing sidings.
In a minute, you'll see what the track plan of the railroad looks like. But this vertical axis here, what Tom points out, this is the town of Tiverton. In reality, that's the passing siding. Right, there's a whole bunch of all the other trackage doesn't appear. It's not necessary. All you're looking for is a territory, right? A physical place that starts here and ends here. You don't really care what goes on in between. So in this case, passing siding, passing siding, passing siding. Okay. I actually plotted all the passenger trains first. The reason why is people complain and cows don't. If you're running a railroad out there, you see on the 6 o'clock news every night, the MBTA is just screw something else up, right? I commuted with them for 6.5 years. A couple of my friends are actually railroad employees, and it's a regular occurrence, and you can understand why if you ever dealt with those people. But in a modeling sense, you want to set up your passenger trains first, and then fit the freight trains in around them. Every time you read an article in the newspaper, the MBTA and Pan Am used to fight constantly. It's over this issue, right? Who wants to go first? The freight railroads say, I have to make money. Passenger railroads say, I have to appease the passengers or they complain. So I'll take that forward into the model world, and I set up all the these are passenger trains first. And then where there were spaces, I integrated all the various freight trains. Slide, please. Passenger trains are run to interfere with freight trains. You want to start an argument? Say that to me. This came up in a clinic a while back too. It almost came to blows. The statement has been around the model railroad world for a long time. You see it in the press all the time. You see when models get together. However, the operations plan of the Valley Junction Railroad was set up to show that when the passenger trains assume the role of operating on their schedule, the freight trains can be integrated into the plan. It's a win-win proposition. One of my regular crew members is a retired dispatcher for Pan Am Railways. And he will tell you, you really don't even need a dispatcher if everything is running on their schedule. So what he's telling you is the only reason the dispatcher exists is to handle the out of normal situation. Right? If every single train was on the money for their time slots, you have no need for the dispatcher. Well, he happened to say this to, well, he's not here today. I was going to zing him, got him so angry, he left. What he was trying to impress on him was the fact that if you have a passenger train and it's assigned a schedule, and you're going to see the next piece of paperwork in a minute, he is rights for movement are granted by the schedule. Interesting concept. Very foreign sometimes to how the modeler thinks because they focus on freight train operations. Slide, please. From the string graph. Now I'm going to pass this around as a bundle. So some of these things we're not going to get to yet, but this is our schedule. So you take the clip off and you can look at it, lick it, smell it, whatever. All right. These times that are in here were picked off that string graph that just passed around. Wherever those lines intersection of place versus time, that's where these came from. Right there. Everything you need to know about moving a train around the Valley Junction Railroad is right here on this piece of paper. Try to give information very concisely, but very briefly, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to hear your life's history. It takes too much time. I need to get information, go from this point to this point in the briefest manner, in the most understood, clearest manner. And this is how it's done. Symbols. If they're alphas, they're freight trains. If they're numeric, they're passenger trains. So right there, I just passed off a whole lot of information. This is all alphas, the freight train. This is all numbers, the passenger train. Okay, so if the dispatcher calls the crew to do a job, he goes, "Hey, John, you got 101." Bang. He now knows he's assigned to a passenger train, number 101. He looks on the schedule, which is in that pile going by. He'll identify where it originates. He'll go to that yard. Yard master will set him up with everything he needs for there to depart on his schedule. So we know that this passenger train is going to leave Portsmouth at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's going to go to Tiverton at 6:15. It's going to leave at 6:30, 6:45, 7, 7:15, 7:30, and they're going to end his run at the other end at 7:45. If he's running on that schedule, and there's no reason why he can't, and he does it on a regular basis, you don't need a dispatcher. All you need a dispatcher for turnouts for him. All right. So this is BOME, B-O-M-E. Alphas, the first two letters is point of origin. B-O stands for Boston. The second two letters is destination. In this case, M-E is Montreal. So the same thing as the illustration I just did with 101. Hey, John, you got B-O-M-E. He knows immediately it's a freight train. He knows where it's going to start. He knows it was going to end. Just in 4 alphas. Next slide, please. Trains instructions cards. That's in that pile. What these are, each and every train is given one of these, and they're two-sided. On one side, it'll say yard instructions, and on the opposite side, it'll say crew instructions. And how they work is they give you all the information you need for this train to do its thing. We start up at the top is POFR, P-O-F-R. Max car is 10. Many years ago, we figured out that if you exceed that 10 number, you're going to be looking for pockets to put freight cars on when you get to Franklin. Okay. 10 is a number of cars that is easily handled and efficiently handled. When that train expands out into 11, 12, 15 cars, they exceed the lengths of the passing sidings. And for every car you add to the train, that's time that you add to work that car. So by using this max car number, it won't leave the yard in a state that's going to cause a backup of some kind when it gets further down the line. I get this question a lot. It's going to work Tiverton, and it's going to work Franklin. these are the industries in Tiverton, and these are the car capacities for those industries. And invariably, particularly a person found for the first time will ask me, but I added all these up and it's more than 10. No, don't add them up. It tells you that if you have cars destined for Columbia Granite and there's a capacity of 2, well, if there's 3 in the yard, what do? Put it in your pocket? Another hard concept that I get a lot. Guys, it's okay to leave the thing behind. That train can only have 2 cars for Columbia Granite because that's the physical element that fit in there. All right. Everybody ever take a physics class where they told you 2 things cannot occupy the same space at the same time? Well, this is motor railroading 101. And it goes right down the list. In this case, POFR is a turn job. It starts at Portsmouth, goes out, and then comes back to Portsmouth. So in that process, then this is how the yardmaster is putting his train together. He will block these cars that are in that train in this kind of order. And then the next block of cars will be down here for the EBL. If you mix those cars up, he's not going to like you. Because when he gets out in Tiverton now, he's got to pick them all apart and put all the like cars together out on a main line. So guess what? You just drew the wrath of the train crew and you just drew the wrath of the dispatcher. This is not good. Blocking is extremely important. All right. Hey, John, you got POFR. John shows up, the yardmaster hands him. I'm going to pass this around separate. This is what he gets, this packet right here. This packet was put together last month's operating session by John McHugh. He was the yardmaster at Portsmouth last week. I happened to walk by the board yesterday and I happened to see this all put together, ready to go. So the train is sitting on a departure track and everything that operating crew needs is in this packet. And we're going to go through each one of them. This is the engine, the train instruction card. That's what's up here. And this is an engine card, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Tom?
Do you want the Portsmouth yardmaster to block Tiverton cars in that order?
No.
Or does that not matter?
No, it doesn't really matter. There's some nuances that every monorail has. For example, we know because it's a turn job, it comes from Portsmouth, it goes past Tiverton, goes to Franklin, and then it turns around and it goes back to Tiverton a second time. Well, Tiverton has industries on both facing point and trailing point turnouts. So experience taught some of these crews that they figured this out. Says we'll work to Tiverton twice. Going this direction, we'll set off all the cars for destined for these industries in Tiverton on trailing point moves and keep the others. Because we know when we get to Franklin, we're going to change ends. So on the way back, those cars we took with us now become trailing point moves on the way home. All right. This is very typical, I guess you say, what the prototypes are doing too. Slide, please. POFR car, POFR train crew. I want you to point this out, right? We just embarrassed the hell out of Paul over here by calling him a centenarian in the NMRA. Here's the other end. This is Brenna. She's 10 years old. She's still operating with us, and she's 24. And this dad. POFR train crew picks up the assigned train from the departing yard, receives all the way bills from the webmaster. That's that packet that's going by. He calls the dispatcher with permission to leave the yard limits. Whatever happens inside the yard limits, the dispatcher goes, I don't care. It don't affect anything I do. That's your territory. And this whole philosophy will work all throughout the railroad. There's some instances I don't care what you're doing. And it's not to be a wise guy or anything like that. It's very simple. The railroad runs on a 24-hour clock. So whatever you did today, it's right, wrong, or indifferent, When the clock goes around 24 hours and you get back there again, it doesn't matter. It's a brand new day. So we try to give responsibilities to the right people, but they all work as a team to get everything done. All right, this crew makes pickups and set outs as described by these instructions. Communications on dispatch via radio right there. Terminates the train at arrival yard. When he pulls into the termination yard, the terminal yard, he just says, okay, yard master, here's your bills. Dispatcher, POFR is off your railroad. And he walks back to the crew lounge and stops and gets a cookie along the way. Slide, please. In graphics, this is what the railroad actually looks like. It's a point-to-point system. I have no capability of doing continuous running, which is a real problem when you do tour de chute, for example, open houses. But we're going to start here in Portsmouth, and we're going to go to Tiverton, work all the industries here. We're going to move up to Franklin. There's a team track here, and then the interchange with the Valley Branch lines. Then go back to Tiverton, and then terminate back at our original point in Portsmouth. This is, if you take all the track in my basement, grab a hold of the end post of the two stations at Portsmouth and Valley Junction and pull like a rubber band. This is what it looks like. Slide. Waybills. This waybill system is from 1972. It is identical. It is the same system that we buy today, are the 4-cycle waybills that Microbark makes. The only difference between them is this predates Microbark by 20 years. It takes 4 pieces of paper to do what the waybills that Microbark sells us does with 1 piece of paper. The process is identical. You get a waybill pocket. There's a coin envelope. I print out the data that pertain to the car, road name, reporting number. Reporting numbers are extremely important. Don't walk up to me and say, where does the Rutland car go? And I'll look at you and go, which one of them? There's probably 6. They all have the same yellow and green paint scheme on them. What's different is the reporting numbers. So you want to actually read the waybill from the bottom up. You want the number first. And then as you go up, and that information on here will tell you the car number, the road name, and the type of car. You add, in this case, we use colored cards for destinations. So arbitrarily assign a color to each of the towns that are switching areas where a car is going to be delivered to, so that they become unique. And the reason why, what it does, it helps the yard master, because he's classifying cars by their destinations. So it's easy for him to identify all the orange cars. And you put those together on a classification track, and all the blue cars in another track, and so on. So you add as many of these colored slips as you want that car to move in, what pattern you want to establish. This happens to be a covered hopper. It's in grain service. So those waybills here will direct that car to move. It comes off of the Boston and Maine at the interchange, goes to Portsmouth, the local picks it up and moves it to Tiverton, where it's spotted at a grain elevator, and we'll see in just a sec. Waybill gets flopped, it'll go back to interchange and off the railroad. All that movement is by picking and choosing these destination cards that are here. How they all work is very simple. The waybill is always with the car. In fact, the waybill moves first and the car follows. Just like passenger trains only run to interfere with freights, right? The concept here is the waybill moves and the car follows. This is why open houses are a real problem. You move a car without the waybill, it'll take me 3 weeks to find that thing. Waybills gives the cars the destination. When it gets to its point of delivery, you take the exposed waybill, which has got to this point, and you take it out of envelope and move it to the rear and slide it to the back. It exposes the next waybill, the next destination right there. So by judiciously moving these from front to rear, you're moving the car all over where you want to assign it to go. This is another simple concept that sometimes becomes overwhelming. There's only two kinds of cars. They're either inbound car or they're outbound car. There's no gray area. There's not, what do I do with it, cars, all right? And how it works is quite simple. If I'm standing in Portsmouth and it's color-coded orange, and Pulver comes in with a bunch of cars on it, and there's a green card in there, this is how it works. I'm in Orange Town. The car that I'm looking at is green. So the definition is, this is not orange. Therefore, it has to be an outbound car. If this car coming into me was orange, then guess what? It's mine. I have to do something with it. So I'll put it into my orange pile. But the green car is an outbound car. The orange ticket, inbound car. And that's all there is, sports fans. There isn't any more. Slide, please. Oh, I just happen to know at the bottom. It's self-healing. We get new people come in from time to time at the end of every session. They always walk up to me and they say, well, this is where I'm at. I left this here. I did this. And I look at them. I go, I don't care. And they get insulted. And I smile. I go, it doesn't matter. Because the next crew that appears here, they don't know what you did. It's not in their world. They look at it as a brand new situation. So if you left a car in the wrong place, it doesn't matter because the follow-on crew, they don't know that because you flipped the bill. All they see is the next destination. So the bill will move, the car will follow. Self-healing. I love this system. All right. Here we, I'm sorry?
No off spots, no holes.
We do. We try to avoid them. And the reason why, I'm glad you asked the question because this has been a point of conversation in the past. In Canterbury, there's three industries up there that sometimes people will put in 3 cars in the train instruction cars specifically says capacity for 2. Well, it somehow got past you. Their third car got in there. Well, there is a little piece of track up there that you could leave it. So the next crew next month comes by and now they're confronted with that extra car, right? They don't know. They just look at the waybill. Oh, it just goes here. So they move it inches and flip the ball and it just keeps on going again. It doesn't impact anything. But it violates, that's a good word, the 10-car max rule. So that crew that had that extra car to off-spot it had extra work to do. And that extra work took time. So we try to avoid that if we can. We try to get them so that it's literally a one-on-one situation, 1 car, 1 place. Okay, this is the industry. This is where this car, VJ336, is built for. The crew is going to stop that thing right there. There's a unloading grate underneath it. The car is spotted. The waybill is flipped. Waybill is put in the pocket on the fascia boards or where all the pockets are. And I'll show you our waybill ejection system in a sec. Goes in there, you're done. The brain turns off. It's finished. You don't have to address it ever again. That's next month. Okay. So the cycle has now been completed. The job here, we're done. Slide, please. This is our waybill ejection system right here. There's a hinge on the bottom and a magnetic catch on the top. And if you want to see 50 waybill pickup, this is how you do it. You push on the bottom of the drawer until the magnet releases. And you keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing, and all of a sudden you reach that critical point, and the draw goes, woof, and all those waybills that were in there go this way, horizontally, like birdshot. And there you're on your hands and knees trying to figure out all the waybills on the floor and what pockets they were in. This is what a yard's pockets look like because they do classification. So their waybill pockets are set up in rows and all tracks are numbered. This is a detail of this. And you can see, this is Tiverton, Farmers Co-op and Deering Cement are on one particular siding. Here's a waybill. This car was a tank car. It was probably dropped here at Deering Cement. You notice the color. Tiverton is light blue. That's different color. Therefore, by definition, it's an outbound car for the next crew that comes through here. Okay, slide. We've covered all of the background information. Now we need to run that train pulver. So let's take a train out on the road and take care of business.
Bruce, we're running a little late, so if you could. We're running late, so if you could just.
You're running late. I'm running on time.
Okay.
The fast block.
You're gonna read this. So I'm just saying.
This sounds like very fun night. Okay. Here's everything we start with. Here's your instructions. These are all blocked. You're ready to go. Slide, please. Sitting on the arrival departure track, engine on the front, caboose on the rear, everything in between. We depend on signals on the railroad quite heavily. The signals are giving you imparting information, right? They're not telling you to go or stop, but they're telling you what the condition in front of you is looking like. In this particular case, these signals here, the green over green, that's telling this crew that once they go around the corner and under the tunnel and they come out the other side of the RJ Tower, there's a diamond there. And there's also a Y leg, so there's two turnouts there. This is a repeater for the turnouts on that Y. So how the rule book reads is, if these show green, he's got clear sailing right across that diamond. He doesn't need to stop, you even think about it. If they show red over red, what we do is that's a permissive signal. And it says you can buy the red, prepared to stop at the next signal. Slide, please. We pull into, excuse me, the Tiverton. These are interchange tracks of the Bluffsman Railroad. We don't handle this on this train. Here's our current we pulled in. These are the industries back here that we're going to be switching cars in and out of. Deerfield Cement, Farmers Co-op, Bond and Whitcomb, Agricultural Implements, Sweeney Brothers Trucking and Transfer. So these four industries are going to be destinations for the cars. Not all those industries are going to get cars. Whatever came out of the yard and how they were put together. And remember, one car per site, two cars per site, whatever the waybill max car number is, applies to here. Slide.
All the cars are gonna get picked up,
I'm sorry?
but all the cars are gonna get picked up.
All the cars are going to be picked up. And what we've found over the years, if we stay within our 10 car max thing, it'll balance out. Remember, this session we brought out 10. So the next session is 10 out there. Okay, so it works pretty good for us. Spawning a car per waybill, always pull the well-bound cars. This is train handling. This is probably the most difficult thing to teach because every railroad is a little bit different. Always pull the outbound cars to make room for your inbound cars. Remember, two things cannot occupy the same space at the same time. The outbound cars we add to the train, head of the caboose. After the inbound car is spotted, you flip the bill, you put it in the pocket, and automatically sets up the next outbound move. You put the new waybills in the correct pockets, you pull the outbound waybills, put them in with their train, you're gone. Spotting an inbound car, pretty simple. This happens to be a trailing point move. That little hopper is going to go right there over that loading dock, that loading pit. This one here is the same thing. And this is how it got there. We go around the corner, if you were. Tiverton is over here. Main line comes around. This is now Franklin. Our train's going to pull in on the main. He's got cars at the front end that are going to go in the Valley Branch lines, which is over here. Slide. He leaves his train out here. He pulls into the Valley Branch lines yard, pulls the cars destined to him to head back to Portsmouth, and sets the cars that he has with the PL. We swap ends, locomotive and caboose swap. Now we head back, in our case it's eastbound, heading back to Portsmouth where we arrive here. When we get here, Yard Master will put you in arrival departure track, one here, one here. This is the bills that you picked up and the instruction card and the engine card, very important engine card. That's turned over to the Yard Master, and the greeting is usually, I'm done, I'm going to get a cookie. This is what the dispatcher sees of POFR. He's in another room. He's not in the train room. In fact, if he gets up off that seat, walks out the door, I'll smack him. I go, you become the problem, not the solution when you go out there, because he takes up space. But anyway, you see here, this is the one line string graph that you guys just saw. This is the numerical schedule the dispatcher uses. And this one, these are all the other pieces, parts of paper that we use. You see this document that I just handed out. This is a description of every train on the system. So if the dispatcher needs to know, what does this one do? He just looks it up right there. We use these little magnets with the train symbol on them. And the top board is magnetic. And this is your track diagram board down the bottom. These are turnout controls. So yellow, it signifies passenger trains. White signifies freight trains. I have been invited to an operating session. What should I do? I am a host. I expect this. This is since 1994 experience speaking. Show up on time. A few minutes early is fine, but late is not nice. The reason why is very simple. I run an 8-person crew. All right. If 7 of them are there and one's not, what do we do? Right? Come on, John, we want to get going. Yeah. We're dependent on you. So it should be at the dispatcher's desk ready to go at 7:30. Right? This is courteous to all the other people there. Be respectful, particularly the host equipment. Don't bring your favorite engine. A lot of times, you know, my friends, obviously, hey, I just bought this new super duper Broadway limited $3,000 diesel. Can I come? No. Sure. It has to be off the layout by 7:30 though. Right? I'm more than happy. Bruce Stockdale bring down his Challenger one day and took out the rock castings and reversing a little bit Boston. Okay. It's very simple. I have invited you to participate in an operating session on the Valley Junction Railroad. That's what I want you to experience. This is what I want to share with you. I'm not interested in your UP turbine. It doesn't fit in New Hampshire in 1960, and it's not painted green, right? If you want to bring your favorite piece of whatever, either before or after, but not during the session. All right. Ask first if you can bring something. This runs a gamut. Everything from, you know, should I wear boots to should I bring champagne? It's just courtesy. Gloria has this thing about cookies. That's why it becomes a joke to us. If you want to bring down a 6-pack of Mountain Dew, we prefer the small cans, by the way, by all means, right? But if you're planning on bringing down fried chicken and a rotisserie, call me first. Okay? Just again, it just falls into courtesy. Do bring your radio, your apron, and the throttle. I use NCE. A lot of people bring their own NCE throttles. Do not set anything down on the scenery. Why do I say that? Is because we operate the 4th Friday of every month. On Saturday afternoon, I vacuum up all the ground foam. Let's face it, guys, I look around this room, our age and our girth are going up at the same progression rate. So guess where the scenery ends up? Right here. And I have very narrow aisles. I have 24-inch aisles with a real problem. Listen carefully to all the instructions, helpful tips and explanations. Ask questions, a lot of questions. If you don't ask the question, boo-hoo for you. The host knows this is your first time on a layout. You will make mistakes. Laugh and learn from them. I am blessed with a crew that is so human, and they will slide you under their wing. You don't even recognize what they're doing, but this is what they do. So if you're a new person, you're down for the first time, 15 minutes, you're going to be, and then the light bulb comes on. Someone of the regular crew will slide up alongside you and go, did you think of doing it this way? And then walk away. Slide right into the groove. You will make a mistake. On larger layouts, an obsession like a 3-ring circus. There's too much to take in. After the session, go home and sleep on it, if you can. For the first time you're at an operating session, you're going to go nuts because they're trying to recount everything in your brain that you just experienced. But most importantly, enjoy this part of the hobby. We all do. Slide, please. Let the trains roll and fun begin. This guy right here, ask him anything you want to know here. He's here today. Dave. Jamie Robinson, he's up here in the Portland area. I was surprised he's not here today. This is still Seabell 40. He's a retired professional railroader, road foreman of engines. He's a retired professional railroad dispatcher. This is one of my electronic gurus, Dick Lloyd. Last slide, please. Remember, always watch your signals. The reason is simple. The dispatcher only gave you clearance to the next signal. And that's it, guys. I'm done.